Well, good day, viewers. Today we have a looks like a Chevy Silverado, 1500 4x4 lifted, towed in for a cranks no start condition. I talked with the customer on the phone this morning. He said a few days ago it wouldn't start. He had it at his shop where a mechanic disconnected the fuel pump driver module and reconnected it, and it started. I'm not sure if it's got spark or fuel delivery, so we're gonna diagnose this one together. First and foremost, we're gonna get in here and look at the status of the check engine light. Well, it's got the typical worn out lock cylinder. So we got a check engine light, service airbag message, and we watch the tach. No tach. The tach did move up there. So maybe the gauges are frozen during cranking. I got a hunch that it might have a lack of spark. I'm going to check for spark. So the spark was jumping down the side of the boot. I did have spark, but I'm looking at this hocus pocus inside the fuse panel here. We're going to start over again from scratch where I should have done, put a scanner on it and check fuel pressure and check for fuel pump prime. Oh, there's the vehicle in the shop. I used the skid steer to bring it in. We're gonna let it thaw out a bit and start over from scratch. I did try and scan it. There was a bunch of codes in it. So here's the report. P0230 fuel pump relay control circuit. It doesn't even have a fuel pump relay, so I don't know why they have that code. P0690 ignition relay feedback circuit. I know he was pulling relays out and fuses out. U0109 lost communication with fuel pump control module. Now I know he pulled the fuse for the fuel pump out, and so did I. So that will cause that lost communication with ABS. I'm starting to think there might be a network issue. I couldn't hear the fuel pump run. Let's look at, I got the key on now. Let's see if we got communication with the fuel pump driver module. I tried to command the fuel pump on and it wouldn't command on. So let's go back into the computers here. Fuel pump. Display codes. As I figured, no communication with the fuel pump driver. Let's see if we got communication with the ABS module. Because the way the network is, I believe it's under 8600 with vehicle speed. Codes, display codes. Got no communication with that either, so chances are we got a network problem. So we're going to let this thing thaw out a bit, and then we're going to measure terminating resistance at the DLC. So I got my breakout box in here, and it's actually a remarkably clean CAN bus signal. The yellow trace is biased at about 2.6 volts, and the green trace is biased at about 2.2 volts. And it looks textbook perfect. I'm going to shut the key off and see if it'll go to sleep. And then check terminating resistance. So I have the ohm meter connected to cross pins 6 and 14, and we're reading 61 ohms. So we don't have an open or a short in the CAN bus. So we're going to have to check powers and grounds to those modules. Now I got data out of the ABS module. Go figure. And I got no codes in it. Display codes, current, history. I did clear all the codes from all the controllers. Now, I'm sure I had the key on when I scanned try the fuel pump again. Display codes. Now we got no codes with the fuel pump module. I didn't do anything. Desired fuel rail pressure 57 psi. Actual fuel rail pressure 63 psi. Will it start now? But I'm sure I had no communication with it, and I did have the key on. That fuse panel could be causing a problem. It's pretty compromised because of the wires in there. Well, you heard it start. Oh well. So the P0230 and the U0109 came back, and I didn't do anything other than start the vehicle. I'm going to clear them one more time. I had cleared all the codes. So I got a funny feeling that fuel pump driver module is going south. We're going to have to visually look at it. Let's start it up again and see what happens. No codes. So I did a post network scan, and in the transfer case computer I have a U0121 lost communication with ABS, and this OBD2 code fuel pump and lost communication with fuel pump control module A. Got some parking aid sensor problems, and airbag light is on, airbag message is on. This battery voltage code is because of a battery charger. I didn't set it at a specific voltage, I just put it on charge. Right front seat position, passenger presence system, electronic control unit performance. I think the airbag is on serial data network. I don't think it's on class 2, or I think it's on CAN bus. But I know the ABS module is, and it's reporting now. So we're back working on this 09 Silverado, or GMC, I'm not sure, the badging's all missing. Gonna check the powers and grounds to the fuel pump control module. I crawl underneath there, the spare tire's off of it. I can see that it's been disconnected and there's been dielectric grease put in the connector. I don't see anything obviously wrong. Pin 1 on the connector is chassis ground at G300, which should be in the cab. Pin 32 is battery power from fuse 21. I've qualified that fuse, pulled it out, it's not corroded. Pin 15 is ignition power from the ECM ignition fuse 56, and that fuse is good, but I'm not sure if we're getting battery or ignition power down here. And 47 and 16 run the actual fuel pump. So looking at the connector, 47 and 16 go off to the fuel pump. 32 is battery power, so if you jump 32 to 47 and 16 to 1 is chassis ground G300, the fuel pump should run. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to lab scope the fuel pump with a current clamp and see what the fuel pump looks like. So load testing the grounds and powers at the connector with a headlight draws about 3.5 amps. Lights the headlight up nice and bright. So we're gonna jump those 2 pins and make the fuel pump run and lap scope it. So there's the pump driver bypassed. It's running full out. It's drawing an average of 16, 17 amps, which seems a little bit high, but mind you, this pump never runs at 100% duty cycle because it's duty cycle controlled. But nevertheless, the waveform looks normal. It is fluctuating a bit, but that further proves that those 2 wires, the power and ground wires, can sustain a load. Now looking at this fuel pump driver underneath here, it's pretty rusty, but I can't see the top of it. Where's that terminating resistor? Right there, right above the frame, right there. And we'll have a look at that. Even though it measured okay yesterday. So as far as I'm concerned, we've confirmed pin 16, pin 47, pin 1, pin 15, pin 32. Now there's this wire here that says data communication schematics, but I believe that's a wake-up voltage signal from the BCM, because it doesn't say where it comes from. But on the pinout, pin 17 is called serial data communication enable. And I'm pretty sure that's a 12-volt signal from the BCM. I'm going to try and double check that, and if it is, I'm going to load test that wire with a 194 side marker bulb. I know that they use the same type of circuit to the ABS module too. Now I've had the ABS modules take down the CAN bus on these trucks because it goes in and out of the ABS module on its way to the fuel pump driver. I took that terminating resistor off the frame and looked at it, unplugged it, it's pristine inside. But if that was shorted out, it would take down the communication as well. So let's find out where this wire actually comes from, and if it is in fact 12 volts. I'm pretty sure it is. So let's zoom in a little bit here. So the circuit 5986 is referred to as serial data communication enable. It comes from the BCM, and it goes to without HP2, which is hybrid. It goes to the electronic brake control module to wake it up, and it also goes to the fuel pump flow control module, pin 17, as you can see here. If it had JL1, the trailer brake control, it would go to the trailer brake control module. I don't believe this has trailer brakes. So I do have a fuel pump driver coming, but I want to qualify this circuit. I've tested them at the EBCM before in the past, and I know it will light a 194 marker light bulb, so I'm going to qualify that. So that's pin 17. That's pin 17 is this one right next to 32. So we're going to pin that with a test light. So using the ground pin and pin 17, it lights a 194 side marker bulb with the key in the run position. So I was really thinking that circuit might be compromised because it could affect both the ABS module and the fuel pump driver. The only way I'm getting that fuel pump driver off is to break it. So I don't want to do that until I plug in the new one, program it. So I decided to qualify it one more time with a voltmeter connected in parallel to the test light, and it's 12.3 volts with a 150 milliamp draw on it. So I'm sure that I'm 90% sure that that circuit is okay. Could be a BCM. Let's see what else is on that circuit. So according to the schematic, it comes straight from pin 19 at connector 3 at the BCM. And it goes through connector 115 under the hood, and then to the EBCM and the fuel pump flow control module. So I'm going to graph the voltage while I'm going to find this connector 115 and just make sure that it's not compromised. Maybe graph the voltage while I move the connections. So X115 is under the fuse panel, just on the inner fender skirt. I wiggled the connections while I graphed the voltage at that light at the back, and nothing changed. And G300 is the one on the cab mount right behind the driver's front wheel. I think we'll be proactive and take that off and clean that too, but it load tested okay, but that can affect the ABS. We're going to have a look at it. So there's the ground on that frame. It's not great, but it doesn't look bad. I'm going to clean it up. That's the ABS ground, and that's the fuel pump ground, believe it or not. So it's kind of important. Doesn't look too bad, but we're going to clean it up. So I'm measuring voltage drop at the fuel pump module with the fuel pump running with the jumper wires based from the battery negative post, and it's 0.46 volts, which is a little high. Now I've cleaned that ground on the frame, but if the other grounds on the frame are compromised, I'm going to put a jumper wire between the negative post of the battery and the frame and see if this improves. I'm going to let it run for a while too. So I hooked the booster cable to the control arm bolt with a pair of vice grips, negative battery cable to the frame with the booster cable, and it didn't change the reading at all, 0.43. So we're going to wait for the fuel pump driver and put it in and program it. So there's a new GM fuel pump driver directly from the dealer. It's the same price as the aftermarket, so, and they had it on the shelf, imagine that. So, but it has to be programmed. I know Dorman now sells one that's pre-programmed, but nobody has it in stock, so this is going to be the way. This is the way we're going to have to go. So we're going to put this on there with dielectric grease on the connector and try programming it. So we're connected to GM SPS, and we're going to do a programming event on this thing. I haven't installed it, I've just got it hanging on the harness. Always some kind of drama when you're doing service programming. I hate this. So I've been waiting an hour now for this thing to finish updating. I had to reboot the computer because SPS wasn't starting properly, and then it said to reboot. So I rebooted the computer, and now I got this message not to turn it off. Oh, always some kind of drama when you're doing service programming. I'm going to try another laptop. So after an hour and a half, it finally finished Windows updates and restarted. I did get another laptop out, but I had to configure it for the little Wi-Fi in the room here, so when this thing finally started, I decided to use it. So we're doing a replace and reprogram of the fuel pump control module. Next. And next. And next. Confirm it has been replaced, yes. It takes a few seconds to download the software. Hopefully we have communication with it. Come on, start. That's a good sign. Well, it seemed to go through okay. Let's clear the DTCs, and then we'll put the snap-on scanner. on it and do a network scan again. So I'm doing a post scan after clearing them with the SPS software. We still have the airbag issue, mirror problem with the passenger door. Haven't started it yet. I wish Snap-on would adopt a topology map like aftermarket scan tools do, or the other aftermarket scan tools do. It's funny, the OBD2 codes didn't clear, so let's go into the ECM and read the codes again, just for the heck of it. No codes. Let's see if it starts. Data. Fuel. Obviously runs, but it was running before with the old fuel pump driver. We're going to cut that old one off the frame now and have a look at it. Hopefully we find it that the housing is compromised. I couldn't see it. I looked up there with a mirror. Let's check for codes one more time. No codes. So this is the inside of that fuel pump driver. It's not as bad as I thought it was, but it's obviously had water in it. You can see the rust. The circuit board is attached to the aluminum cover, and this coil, I'm not sure what that is. Maybe somebody can comment and tell me what that coil is, but it's definitely compromised, as are these capacitors. So let's hope that this fixes it. Unfortunately, I don't know until we drive it for several days, weeks, because it was an intermittent problem and it was running with this one on there.